as promised, is the English version of yesterday's IGTV. When I do random questions, sometimes I answer it on stories, but I figured this was going to be a little longer. And it's also probably something that I want to just keep as a backup. So if someone asks, I have a reference to watch this instead of keeping repeating myself like I've been doing for the last 8 years. So I had a question slash statement that went like, I'm at 115 kilos, which is like 250 pounds. I don't know where to begin, or how do I begin? And as I was thinking about answering that question, I started having a different perspective of people who don't suffer with obesity or don't suffer in the area that they need change. And they might look at something like that and be like, it's so obvious. Just shut your mouth, start exercising, make better choices. It does sound so obvious. It does. But then I started thinking about the other side that a lot of the science doesn't fully explain. It's why does it seem that when I do that, I can't fully commit, or why do I try and fail? And then I started having all these thoughts of, what is she not asking? What is she not comprehending about her own journey? Because someone who got to 250 pounds, me, I didn't ask the right questions. And therefore there was a long period of suffering because I tried all these things because I was so desperate. Oh yeah, that's what she mentioned. She's like, I'm desperate. And I think that's what caught my attention, was the part that she said that she was desperate. And there was a lot of, I think when you write and you're so desperate, there's everything, like every single word is spelled incorrectly, but you can still get the context of the question. And I saw myself in that, because your brain is not fully functioning to the point that you can't even articulate what you're trying to say, because you are in such a desperate mode. And that question is so simple and so obvious that it's not. And that's what I wanted to address. So there's been a little bit of shift here. So I'm going a little off topic. There's been a little bit of a shift in terms of my way of answering things. And I think that comes with knowledge and growth and maturity on my end. And I'm very grateful for that. I'm not going to be the person who's going to sit here and tell you, don't eat this instead. Don't do that, do this instead. Because I've come to learn that there is not one answer to these things, and that the answer that really matters is what no one is thinking about. Therefore, that is why we're failing all the time. So there is no journey that is the same. Okay. So, and I even talked about this yesterday, was saying that what I'm going to say here and what I'm going to say in all of these answers is always try to pick what's behind the answer. So people are like, oh, can you give us tips, or which foods do you eat, or what diet do you do? I am not going to answer these questions specifically, because in truth, it doesn't matter. And you know that on an unconscious level, because I can sit here and I can tell you exactly what I eat, and I can sit here and I can tell you exactly what I do, because as a profession, that's what I do with people, with clients. I would sit here and I would draw you a map of exactly what you need to do. And I will tell you with all the letters in the alphabet. I will draw you a picture. I will send you pictures. I will send you videos, but you still won't do it. And then I started thinking, well, if I'm giving the person all the answers because I've experienced it, and not only have I experienced it, this is the area that I study, why isn't it working? And then insight, because you're not asking the right questions. And even if I do give you the answers, it is not working because there's something that you're not doing. So let's get more specific. The answer to the question of, help me, I don't know where to begin, I'm desperate, I didn't answer the question saying, well, do this, do that, and stop doing this, and that's where you start. Because a simple answer would be, go to the gym, don't give up, one step at a time, breathe, count your macros. That's an obvious answer. However, someone who is going through a journey and they have not only so much weight to lose, but they are so tired of trying and failing and trying and failing and trying and failing, those words don't make sense because they've done all those steps. And so what they're really asking is, what can I possibly do differently that this time will make a difference? What can I possibly do that I would actually see results and continue on to this journey? Because a weight loss journey, I'm using weight loss as an example here, not as an example to answer this question, because it was referring to weight loss, but the answer here applies to every single area of your life. Every single area. So if you don't struggle with obesity or needing to lose weight, maybe you struggle with in terms of having a career change or deciding to start a family or deciding to move somewhere, start something new or stop something. So this applies to every single area of your life. So let me try to get to the point here because I don't want to make this super, super, super long. What you're not asking and what you're not understanding is there needs to be a sacrifice in order for you to obtain something that is so difficult and yet so valuable to you. And that's what people don't understand. And I was saying that a weight loss journey is so bipolar because Sunday night, Monday and Tuesday, you are in extreme desperation to change. You want to change so bad that you're willing to do whatever it takes, even if you have to go on a 40-day water fast. That's how extreme you want it. And you actually believe in it, that you were willing to do this in order to gain your health back, in order to feel better about yourself. You're able to believe all these nonsense fad diets or supplements or whatever it is that it's selling out in the market today because you believe that this is going to be the solution to your problem. However, by Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, your mind shifts in such a way that you don't remember anymore the desperate feeling that you had Sunday night, Monday morning, and Tuesday. Do you understand where this is going? What you wanted so badly in those first 3 days completely changed when it got to the half of the week and it hit Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You're like, I'm only human. And then we start having these thoughts. I'm only human, I have to be logical about this. And then we start to rationalize everything. And that's where there is a disconnect between what you feel one day and what you do or what you feel the next day. And that's why we can never, we're always moving, but we're not going anywhere. We're always in motion. We're always talking. We're always so busy, but that busyness is not producing anything. It's not going anywhere. And I started to realize, I said, what is the answer behind all of this? Because there's not one answer to weight loss. Everyone's path, everyone's journey is different. So I had many phases throughout my weight loss journey, people that follow me from the beginning. And what I did won't necessarily work for you. And what someone else did won't necessarily work for me. And therefore, some people go down the surgery lane, which is, they have a gastric, bypass gastric surgery. And side note here, I'm not against that. I'm not against anything. Everyone has their path. Everyone has their journey, and everyone is different. And not one story is less or better than another. Having weight loss surgery is not miracle. I know, and I've personally worked with people, and I personally know people that has had the surgery and has not had success, or people that has had success and then backtracked and went right back to where they were, because the surgery doesn't change your mindset. So people that say, oh, it doesn't count because she had surgery, don't say that, because unless you go through it and you know the process and you suffered through it, you can't possibly know the struggle that person goes through in order to change their habits. Having surgery does not change the way you think. So in order to have a success story, you need to change completely. The surgery was a tool. So just like a diet and exercise and a coach and a gym or a program is a tool, the The surgery is a tool. And if you don't put that tool to work, it is not going to do anything. If you buy a hammer and you just let it sit, the hammer is not doing its job. If you buy a treadmill and you don't use it, you just have a treadmill. It's not giving you anything. It's just a tool. So I think it's ridiculous when people start saying, well, it doesn't count because, she did this and she did that and she did whatever procedure. Procedures are procedures. They don't change who you are. They're just a tool. And if you don't know how to use that tool properly, it's not going to benefit you in any way. So I am not against anyone who does the surgery. Everyone has a different path and everyone has a different experience. And just because her experience was different than my experience does not mean that it was less or more worthy than mine or vice versa. Do you understand? The problem is that we're no longer willing to sacrifice. And that is what's missing in that question. It's not about where to begin, how to begin. I don't know where to start. It's what are you willing to give up in order to have what you want? And that is what we need to measure, because Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, you're so desperate you'll say anything, but come Wednesday, you start to rationalize your answer. Even though what you said Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday was absolutely absurd, like I'm going to go on a water fast and never eat again, still, there was something that you were willing to sacrifice, even though that was ridiculous. That's a ridiculous example. That's an extreme example, and that's what I'm using here. It was a sacrifice that you were willing to make, but come Wednesday, you start rationalizing it. So what happens is we're so desperate, we say whatever, but then come half the week, or like you start measuring the sacrifice that you need to do, and you're like, is it really worth it? Do I really want to sacrifice this? Do I really want to change? And that's where we fail, because we're not willing to sacrifice and we want instant gratification and we want to see changes tomorrow. I've been on this journey for 8 years. It's going to be 8 years come May. And I still struggle. And if I'm not on top of my game, I will go backwards. And I have gone backwards, and I have shared that here openly with you guys. So there is not one simple answer. The answer is you have to give something up in order to gain something of value. And if you're not willing to put in the work, and if you're not willing to sacrifice whatever that is. I don't have an opinion on that. Okay, that is great. That is my watch talking to me. Okay, whatever. And if you don't have the willingness to give something up and sacrifice and say no for a period of time, then that is where you fail. And that is where things start going wrong. So I've talked about it, and this is just an example. I sacrificed a lot of my social life. Not that I had a huge social life, but a lot of my social life I sacrificed. Vacations, the first 3 years, I didn't take vacations. I didn't go out to eat in restaurants. I avoided the movie theaters, all situations that I knew that my flesh was weak, and I would use those events and occasions to be like, oh, it's okay. It's vacation. Oh, it's okay. I'm at a movie theaters. Oh, it's okay. It's my anniversary. Oh, it's okay. It's my husband's birthday. So these were extreme examples, but then again, I was almost 300 pounds and I needed to do something extreme to change my life. So if you're not willing to give something up in order to gain something of value, it's never going to work. Because if it's just temporary, oh, I'm just going to do this cabbage soup diet for 7 days. 7 days is not a sacrifice. And whatever it is that you sacrifice for 7 days, it's exactly that. Those 7 days of sacrifice is only going to show 7 days of work, if that, and you're going to gain it all back, because that wasn't a real sacrifice. That was not a very smart decision for a desperate moment. So people are no longer to say no to situations, and then they start rationalizing, saying, oh, I'm being too extreme. I need to have balance. And that is the issue, is that anyone who has a dream in becoming a neurosurgeon, is you're not going to see that person partying every Friday, every weekend. You're going to see that person for a good chunk of their life studying and working their butt off in order to get to where they want to get. And then once they arrive there, they still need to maintain a level of concentration and focus and studying, but they still have room to be able to juggle life with family, social life, events, and so on. But for a very long time, I can guarantee you that that person did not. They sacrificed a lot. Money, time, family, in order to gain something. So the question is really, what are you willing to sacrifice in order to get that you want? And this can be in answering the weight loss question, but it can also be answering any other question. So I want to go back to school. I want to have a change of career. I want to start a family. I want to move from New York to California, from California to New York. But there has to be a sacrifice in order for you to accomplish these things. And we're in a generation that everything is so instant. Like, you just want instant gratification now. And 1 week is like, it's like, oh my God, I can't. 1 week is too much. It's been 8 years for me. And for people that followed me from the beginning, and I get these emails a lot, so I'm not saying it to boost myself, but there are people that followed me from day one, and they still live their lives the way they lived 8 years ago, still complaining that there is no change in their life because they were never willing to sacrifice. And this comes from people that actually write me. This is not me saying it in terms of someone specifically. I get these messages a lot, like, oh my God, I've been following you for such a long time. If I had just started back then, or if I had just started halfway through your journey, I would have been somewhere else. And therefore, they're still suffering with the same problems that they suffered 8 years ago, that I suffered 8 years ago, but they were never willing to sacrifice. What you want is the concept. The concept is pretty easy, right? Because the concept doesn't have to pay the price. The concept doesn't have to suffer. The concept doesn't have to cry. The concept doesn't have to feel the pain. But the reality of it, you do. So people want the concept of the change, of the sacrifice, but they don't actually want to feel it. They don't actually want to cry through it. The crying, the pain, the sweat, the blood is what's going to make all the difference. And you need to measure, where you are in life, because that also counts. Sometimes you're not mentally, you're not spiritually, you're not emotionally ready to sacrifice something. And that's okay too. You need to put yourself in a position that you're like, okay, I need to sacrifice for this. And for some people, it's between life and death, because, you have diabetes, high cholesterol, and a whole list of problems. And it's like, you change now or you die. And for some people, it's like they're unhappy. Some people, there's a list of things. My experience is going to be different than yours, and yours experience is going to be different than mine. But however, the outcome comes out to, what are you going to sacrifice? What are you going to sacrifice in order to achieve that you want? And when I say sacrifice, I don't mean it lightly. I mean that there is a price to be paid for that thing that you want, whatever it is. And that price is not weeks or months, not even years. It is a lifetime. There is wiggle room after a certain period of time, but you have to sacrifice to have whatever it is that you want of value. Because things that are truly valuable, they are not free. They are priceless. However, that priceless comes with a cost of sacrifice. I know it's kind of doesn't make sense, but I think that people that actually are going through this will understand that it's priceless in terms of there is no cost of value. There is no money that can be paid. There is only that you cannot see. And that you cannot see is the sacrifice of things that you want to say yes to, but you have to say no, or things that you want to say no to and you have to say yes. Whatever that is, every journey is different. You will know what it is for you. I know what it is for me. So I had to give up a lot of things that I loved and enjoyed and that I felt good about, but they weren't good for me for what I needed to achieve. This is way longer than I wanted it to be. It should have been just less than 10 minutes, ended up being almost 20. And I apologize because I can talk for hours. But I hope it helps someone, and I promise it would be in English. So there it is. Okay. God bless you guys.